Hey there. Hi, I am Andy. I am the Doma CTO, Foundation Capital company founded in 2017. And quite a journey that we've been through. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we've been using machine learning, AI, and so forth in kind of our real estate transaction automation business. So we started out as States Title, moved on to become Doma when we IPO'd in 2021. So pretty fast clip, right? From 2016 to 2021, grew largely through acquisitions. And what we do is close home loans. So when you buy a home or refinance it, the mortgage that you get to you appears to be entirely handled by the bank or lender, but it's not. There's a whole entire other industry that's in charge of closing the loan. It's a very sort of antiquated process. You can get a mortgage on your phone, and then as soon as it's time to close it, you're transported back in time. This is sort of a cheeky slide that we had in one of our sort of IPO decks, where the idea is you're trying to build trust around the transaction, specifically title. Title is just what I call lawsuit insurance, just making sure that there's no legal issues from the past, that once you buy a home as a homeowner or give a loan out with the home as a collateral as a lender, that there's no lawsuits, judgments, ex-spouses, et cetera, that will come and sort of take away your equity in the home. And it's an insurance process against that. You know, the idea is that this is a little bit exaggerating. You know, our competition, the market's dominated, so it's about 20 billion in revenue that's involved here, and the market's dominated by about 4 large players. They are getting ahead with technology, not so much the type of AI that we're talking about at this meeting. So this is a little bit of an exaggeration, but our idea was to make a big difference here, right? So lower cost, make it more efficient than closing in a month. And sort of at the height of the refi boom, before interest rates went up, we kind of did it. We reduced the title, so the lawsuit insurance part of the transaction dramatically, pretty close to instant. The overall closing, which involves not just that little insurance piece, but if you ever bought a home, all those forms and emails and requests for information in triplicate, trying to make that more efficient was kind of what we took on. And we did see a result when we were doing large amounts of volume before all of mortgage sort of cratered, where we were driving much faster timelines in terms of closing of these loans. So I just want to give you a flavor for why this is a complex task and not just simply rote automation. You have to basically retrieve a history of everything that's happened to the property over time from various data sources. They come in as unstructured data, often sort of paragraphs full of data. And normally a human's supposed to kind of read through them, see what issues are important, what are not, and then create a final sort of loan package that can be signed off on after all the potential issues have been either cleared or found to be non-issues. So to go through all of that automatically wasn't just a software engineering project, it was actually an AI project, especially when it came to the documents and emails. And so we essentially created a suite of ML models before sort of ChatGPT and generative AI hit it big. As a lot of you know, the underlying technology that makes ChatGPT and the likes of it possible, something called transformer. Sometimes you'll hear about it as the attention mechanism, basically extremely large neural networks with very special types of connections that enhance sort of understanding of language and visual data. So we were really an early adopter here. We were downloading papers that labs out of Google and Meta were publishing. We're downloading the models that they were extremely kind to make, not only open source, but open source for unrestricted business use. So we could download these models and start trying to get them to automate a lot of the processes. And so one of the tasks, for example, that we used LLMs to solve before there was a generative component. So the understanding component of large language models arrived before the generative component. And really what OpenAI did so amazingly is create that interactivity. But we sort of started with the precursors of GPT. You might have heard of Bert, for example, and really set it up. We didn't have the generative part, but we did have the comprehension part. And one of the tasks we're trying to sort of automate is our human processors got thousands and thousands of emails a day. Many of them were sort of not really that relevant, and so just took time and expense to process. So we created this model that would sort of go through emails and mark them as actionable or not with an LLM. You see an email here, which is sort of not actionable, right? It's just a thank you email. No one needs to do anything about this. And the idea is that we would feed this kind of email through an LLM. And the LLM, instead of interacting with the email or chatting with it, it would go through each word and label each word as what it is, whether it's miscellaneous or a signature. And if there is no actionable information, it would actually eventually label the email as non-actionable. And then what you're seeing here is now there is an actionable thing. Now this email has become, I need help closing this file, which is actionable. And then if you rerun the LLM, now it's labeled this paragraph too, I need help closing the file, as sort of information. So then this email as a result will be marked actionable and escalated to a processor. We found this technology to be extremely powerful and extremely helpful. And we also had a lot of lessons learned about using the sort of non-chatbot internal use cases is I guess where we go down this tree. Again, we had predictive modeling that wasn't so much generative. And I think the foundation team wanted me to come up with lessons learned for the non sort of LLM part of our traditional risk modeling, which a lot of fintechs have risk models. I know Foundation has other portfolio companies that have like life insurance risk models and things like that. Would do again early engagement with regulators, sort of above board here, not the move fast and break things approach, but slowly talk to all the parties and make sure that they're brought along as you develop your tech. That was actually really cool and that was good. What we do differently is really be careful where we get our data. In finance, data sources can come with a lot of baggage attached, which I wish we'd known when we signed some of the contracts that we did. Now, on the generative, what would we do again? What would we do differently? Would do again this process of downloading papers coming out of Stanford and Meta and Google and Microsoft and having journal clubs on them for our AI researchers and putting things into the code allowed us to be leaders and bring this stuff to our customers for much earlier than something like ChatGPT. What we do differently, I think a lot of the issues we had deploying this tech was that the sort of what I call the illusion of automation, the idea that you can actually replace human minutes with this tech. We sort of found that it was an all or nothing problem. Either you had to eliminate a whole category of tasks all at once. If you just went in and automated parts of it by having the LLM pick up on aspects of it, it was very limited value, because if you had to bring a human in to look at anything, you sort of lost the value of automation. The other thing that I think everyone on this call shouldn't ignore is the cost of running these things versus offshore. Some of these large models, cost a couple of bucks an hour to run, just to run on the cloud, not to develop, not your staff. Like just the thing running is a couple of bucks per hour. And what we found is very often our competitors could stay abreast with us with just offshoring, where it's not too much more expensive to get a human, ramp them up on this expertise and have them do the task. So that's the thing, like really being careful about the thesis that LLMs can achieve efficiency through automation. We learned a lot of hard lessons that way.